According to the Stoics, the greatest people are characterized by their ability to deal with stress. Yet we've been taught that the moment we feel stressed, we must slow down or take time off, as if stress is something bad for us. The Stoics, however, understood that just as a gem cannot be formed without enduring the earth's immense pressure, a great person cannot be formed without enduring the pressures of life. Because greatness is not a product of ease, but of struggle and perseverance. Therefore, among the Stoic quotes, one from Seneca stands out: "Just as a gem cannot be polished without friction, nor can a man be perfected without trials. You are what you are, and what you will be. Within you is the power to transform yourself, to learn and improve yourself daily." Through the power of Stoicism, one can reach their ultimate potential. If you wish to be a Stoic, you must first realize what is within your power. To help others around you, you must first help yourself. Master your mind, your reactions to internal and external events, your habits and impulses. Only then can you walk the path of the Stoic and begin your journey to self-mastery. Nothing in life is easy, and the Stoic path to greatness requires focus, attention, and mindfulness. It is a lifelong journey with the mindset to constantly improve and live according to our virtues. Mastering your thoughts sets the foundation for unshakable focus and success. Each thought can be a tool or a weapon. The choice is yours. Life is full of challenges, from personal struggles to professional and financial setbacks. By mastering the Stoic mindset, you can overcome obstacles, find clarity, and become truly unstoppable. Every morning we are born again. What we do today is what matters most. These words, echoing the wisdom of the Stoics, remind us of the power each day holds in shaping who we are and who we become. Whether you're navigating the intricacies of a career, personal relationships, or inner turmoil, Stoicism provides clarity and actionable wisdom. By deeply understanding and applying these principles, you will find yourself armed with the tools to face any obstacle with confidence and resolve. The power of Stoicism lies in its simplicity, its focus on action over abstraction, on what you can control rather than what you cannot. Stoicism also teaches us that the most profound transformations begin within. The way you think, react, and interpret the world determines your ability to handle life's pressures. It's a philosophy rooted in empowerment, reminding you that you possess the strength to choose your response, no matter how overwhelming the external circumstances may seem. When you fully embrace Stoicism, you shift from being reactive to proactive, from feeling powerless to discovering inner power. This video will explore 3 profoundly transformative Stoic perspectives. We'll draw insights from both ancient and modern Stoic philosophers and provide practical exercises to integrate these ideas into your life. I would like to hear your thoughts on these 3 perspectives in the comments. Part 1. Master your mindset. Perception shapes reality. At the heart of Stoicism is the idea that events are neutral. It's our perception that gives them meaning. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher, wrote, "If you are pained by any external thing, it is not this thing that disturbs you, but your own judgment about it, and it is in your power to wipe out this judgment now." This perspective empowers you to take control of how you interpret life's events. This mindset forms the foundation for resilience, as it teaches you to separate emotion from fact and interpretation from reality. By embracing this principle, you can stop being a victim of circumstances and instead become a master of your responses. Furthermore, it highlights the profound influence of self-awareness and intentional thinking in determining your overall life experience. The ability to reframe your perspective can fundamentally change how you approach both setbacks and successes, making your mind a fortress of strength and clarity. Epictetus, another prominent Stoic philosopher, similarly advised, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." This idea invites you to become the architect of your internal world, irrespective of the chaos outside. Your thoughts are the lens through which you view reality. Mastering them ensures you don't succumb to despair or overwhelm. Instead, it allows you to see opportunity in adversity and maintain composure when life feels unmanageable. For the Stoics, this mastery of perception is the cornerstone of a tranquil and purposeful life. Moreover, by taking ownership of your perceptions, you shift from reactive to proactive living, building mental fortitude and emotional intelligence in the process. This shift fosters a greater sense of control and eliminates the emotional turbulence that often derails progress. To elaborate, this principle doesn't suggest ignoring challenges, but rather approaching them with clarity and resolve. If a situation seems overwhelming, ask yourself, is this truly unbearable, or is my judgment making it so? The answer often reveals that the situation itself is manageable when stripped of emotional exaggeration. This realization allows you to act with focus rather than panic, transforming even the direst circumstances into manageable tasks. Additionally, it nurtures a mindset where challenges are no longer feared, but embraced as opportunities to practice self-mastery and patience. This approach not only builds resilience, but also fosters creativity, as you begin to see multiple pathways to overcome the same obstacle. Modern Stoics like Ryan Holiday emphasize this principle in books like The Obstacle is the Way. He states, "Events are objective. You have the power to assign the meaning." This mindset shift allows you to respond to situations with calmness and clarity, rather than being overwhelmed by emotional reactions. Holiday underscores that this approach is not about denying reality, but about shaping your perspective to empower action. By framing events constructively, you reduce the mental clutter that clouds decision-making and cultivate a more productive response to setbacks. The clarity that comes with this practice can transform seemingly insurmountable problems into manageable and even beneficial opportunities. Modern psychology echoes this Stoic principle, particularly in cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, which emphasizes reinterpreting negative thoughts to reduce distress. For example, CBT teaches individuals to challenge catastrophic thinking patterns such as "this is the end of the world," replacing them with balanced interpretations like "this is a setback, but I can manage it." These strategies align directly with Stoic teachings on perception, underscoring the timeless relevance of these ideas. Recognizing the objectivity of events and your role in assigning meaning creates an empowering sense of agency. The tools provided by CBT and Stoicism offer complementary methods to not only cope with adversity, but to grow from it. Holiday adds, "Perception precedes action. Right action follows the right perspective." This underscores how clarity in your thinking leads to constructive decision-making, which in turn drives positive outcomes, no matter the circumstance. A focused mind creates the foundation for productive action, while an uncontrolled mind can spiral into paralysis or rash decisions. This insight is particularly relevant in today's fast-paced world, where clear thinking can mean the difference between success and failure. Moreover, it offers a practical way to navigate the complexities of modern life by fostering resilience and adaptability. The principle of clarity becomes a guiding force, enabling you to act with purpose and decisiveness even amidst uncertainty. This perspective encourages a proactive approach to life. For instance, when faced with an obstacle, instead of lamenting its presence, ask, "What can I do about this?" Or, "How does this challenge serve as an opportunity for growth?" By shifting your focus to actionable solutions, you cultivate resilience and resourcefulness. This deliberate shift in focus not only alleviates stress, but also turns every setback into a stepping stone for personal and professional growth. This mindset can transform a passive response to adversity into an active strategy for improvement. The Stoic mindset doesn't just change how you feel about problems. It transforms how you address them, fostering a sense of empowerment and optimism. When consistently practiced, this approach builds a solid foundation for enduring fulfillment and success. Over time, this method rewires your thinking, enabling you to face life's complexities with confidence and clarity, while continuously striving for excellence. Reframe negative situations. When faced with a setback, ask yourself, "What's good about this?" Or, "How can I grow from this?" For example, losing a job can be reframed as an opportunity to explore a new career path. This exercise transforms fear and frustration into curiosity and possibility. Catch negative judgments. Practice mindfulness to become aware of your thoughts. If you find yourself catastrophizing, pause and challenge the thought. Replace "this is a disaster" with "this is a challenge I can handle." You can strengthen this habit by deliberately monitoring your reactions throughout the day and recording moments of overreaction in a journal. Journaling exercise. Each evening, reflect on a situation that upset you. Write down your initial judgment, then rewrite it with a more balanced perspective. Over time, this practice rewires your thought patterns. Try creating a neutral interpretation list for recurring situations to preemptively shape your reactions. Visualize neutrality. Before encountering potentially stressful situations, visualize yourself remaining calm and rational. Imagine the event unfolding and focus on maintaining emotional control. Visualization prepares your mind to respond rather than react. Mantra for mental control. Develop a Stoic mantra like, "I control my judgment, I control my peace," and repeat it during moments of stress to ground yourself in this principle. Part 2. Adversity is an opportunity for growth. The Stoics viewed challenges as essential for building character. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." Epictetus echoed this sentiment. Difficulties are things that show a person what they are. Adversity, in Stoic philosophy, is not something to be avoided, but something to be embraced as a teacher and catalyst for growth. It is through the friction of challenges that we polish our inner virtues and discover our true capabilities, unlocking potential that often remains hidden in comfort and ease. Challenges are not mere inconveniences, but opportunities to cultivate resilience, self-discipline, and wisdom, transforming us into better versions of ourselves. Seneca, another Stoic master, compared hardship to fire. Fire tests gold, adversity tests brave men. This comparison reminds us that just as gold is purified in fire, we are strengthened and refined through difficulty. Challenges are not punishments, but opportunities to evolve, revealing what we're capable of and what virtues we need to cultivate. Hardship becomes the forge where qualities such as patience, courage, and wisdom are tempered and strengthened, allowing us to emerge more resilient and purposeful with each trial we endure. In this light, every challenge becomes a chance to rise above our current limitations and unlock untapped potential. The Stoics recognized that adversity offers a chance to break free from complacency. Without challenges, we might remain stagnant, missing the opportunity to grow into better versions of ourselves. Complacency dulls ambition and inhibits progress, but adversity sparks movement, forcing us to confront our limits and push beyond them. Each obstacle faced with a Stoic mindset becomes a tool for self-improvement, sharpening our skills and enhancing our resilience. These obstacles are not interruptions to our progress, but integral steps on the journey toward self-mastery and excellence. In facing difficulties head-on, we learn to embrace change and adapt, realizing that growth often lies on the other side of discomfort. Adversity teaches us to value what we have and develop gratitude for the journey itself. By encountering difficulties, we learn to appreciate moments of ease and recognize the strength we have cultivated through struggle. This dual perspective, combining gratitude with determination, allows us to face future challenges with a more balanced and composed mindset. Adversity humbles us, reminding us of life's unpredictable nature, while simultaneously empowering us to rise above our circumstances. Gratitude for these lessons deepens our capacity for resilience, making each challenge an opportunity for introspection and growth. Ryan Holiday expands on this idea. Obstacles are not only to be expected but embraced. They are opportunities to test ourselves, to try new things, and ultimately to triumph. Modern Stoicism teaches us that adversity reveals our inner strength. Resilience, grit, and adaptability are forged in the fires of hardship, making us stronger and more capable with each challenge. Holiday's perspective emphasizes that obstacles are not just barriers. They are the raw material from which we build our best selves. These moments of resistance are opportunities to cultivate creativity, determination, and endurance, transforming struggles into stepping stones toward greater achievements. In this sense, adversity is not just a trial, but a vital ingredient for success. Psychological research supports this Stoic view. Studies on post-traumatic growth show that individuals often emerge from adversity with greater emotional strength, deeper relationships, and a clearer sense of purpose. The trials we endure can lead to profound transformation, fostering traits such as empathy, resourcefulness, and perseverance. These scientific insights align with the Stoic belief that hardship is an indispensable part of human flourishing. Adversity becomes a teacher, revealing our hidden potential and pushing us to grow in ways we might not have imagined possible. Through these experiences, we develop a sense of purpose and a renewed appreciation for life's complexity and beauty. Furthermore, adversity enhances our problem-solving abilities. When faced with a challenge, we are compelled to think creatively, adapt to new circumstances, and overcome limitations. This process not only builds mental toughness, but also improves our capacity to innovate and thrive in unpredictable situations. By learning to navigate difficulties, we cultivate a mindset of adaptability and resourcefulness that serves us well in all aspects of life. The more we face and overcome, the more prepared we become for whatever lies ahead, equipped with the wisdom and strength that only experience can provide. Each challenge we surmount reinforces our confidence, creating a virtuous cycle of growth and resilience. Modern Stoicism also reminds us that adversity is not just about individual growth, but about fostering connection and shared humanity. When we see others enduring hardship, we develop empathy and compassion, realizing that struggles are universal. This shared understanding creates opportunities for collaboration, support, and mutual encouragement, turning personal challenges into collective triumphs. By embracing this perspective, we transform adversity into a bridge that unites rather than isolates, fostering a sense of solidarity that strengthens communities. Adversity, when approached with a Stoic mindset, becomes a force that binds us together and enriches the human experience. Reframe challenges as training. View obstacles as a gym for your mind. Each challenge is a chance to strengthen virtues like patience, courage, and resilience. For instance, dealing with a difficult colleague can be an opportunity to practice empathy and communication skills. Remind yourself that you are in a constant state of growth, and each obstacle is another stepping stone. Daily micro-challenges. Train yourself to embrace discomfort by setting small daily challenges, such as taking a cold shower, trying a new skill, or having a tough conversation you've been avoiding. These practices prepare you for larger life challenges. As Marcus Aurelius noted, the art of living is more like wrestling than dancing. Reflect on past resilience. Make a list of past challenges you've overcome. Reflect on the strengths and skills you developed through those experiences. Use these as reminders of your capacity to handle future obstacles. Keep this list accessible to reinforce your self-belief. Adversity role models. Study the lives of individuals who have faced extraordinary adversity and emerged stronger. From Viktor Frankl's resilience in a concentration camp to Nelson Mandela's unwavering resolve, real-world examples can inspire and motivate you to embrace your own challenges. Revisit failures with gratitude. Re-evaluate a past failure, asking, "How did this strengthen me?" or "What did I gain from this experience?" Write down your reflections to deepen your understanding of the value of adversity. Part 3. Memento Mori. Embrace mortality to fuel purpose. The Stoics believed that contemplating mortality brings clarity and focus. Seneca wrote, "Let us prepare our minds as if we'd come to the very end of life. Let us postpone nothing. Let us balance life's books each day." By accepting the brevity of life, you can prioritize what truly matters. Have you ever paused to ask yourself what truly drives you? In the midst of our fast-paced lives, it's easy to lose sight of the deeper meaning behind our daily actions. Yet, uncovering our true purpose is like igniting a flame within, a flame that illuminates our path and fuels our journey with passion and determination. Purpose is the silent heartbeat of our existence, the whisper that reminds us of who we are and what we are meant to contribute to our lives, those around us, and the world. Embracing this secret power transforms not only our lives, but also the lives of those around us, infusing each day with clarity, joy, and fulfillment. Viktor Frankl, an Austrian psychiatrist who survived the horrors of the Holocaust during World War II, recounted that during his time in concentration camps, he observed that those who survived were often the ones who held on to a sense of purpose, a reason to live beyond their immediate suffering. Frankl's conviction that life has meaning even in the worst circumstances helped him endure unspeakable hardship. His experiences later became the foundation for his book, Man's Search for Meaning, which has inspired millions. Frankl's story illustrates how adversity reveals what we value most, shaping convictions that guide us through even the darkest hours. His journey teaches us that hardship not only tests conviction, but deepens it, anchoring it in profound understanding. In the words of Viktor Frankl, "Those who have a why to live can bear with almost any how. Embrace your why, and you will find the resilience to navigate any how that life presents." Awareness of mortality is not morbid. It is a call to live fully and intentionally, making deliberate choices that align with your values and purpose. Mortality is the great equalizer, reminding us that time is our most finite and precious resource. When we understand this, procrastination loses its appeal, and trivial concerns fade into the background. This perspective doesn't simply urge us to seize the day, but also to cherish the depth of each moment, ensuring that our actions align with a larger sense of meaning. The Stoics also saw memento mori as a tool for humility. Reflecting on mortality diminishes pride and ego, helping you recognize your place in the greater order of life. Seneca wrote, "No man has been promised tomorrow." This acknowledgement shifts our focus from the endless pursuit of status or material wealth to the cultivation of character and meaningful relationships. It prompts us to ask not what we can accumulate, but how we can contribute and connect with others in the time we have. By embracing this principle, We are inspired to use each day as an opportunity to act with purpose, guided by integrity and gratitude. It's a reminder that the true measure of life lies not in its length, but in its depth. Contemporary Stoic thinkers like Donald Robertson emphasize the liberating power of memento mori. He writes, "Reflecting on mortality helps us to let go of trivial concerns and focus on living a life of purpose." Steve Jobs famously echoed this sentiment, stating, "Remembering that you are going to die is the best way I know to avoid the trap of thinking you have something to lose." This perspective encourages boldness, urging us to take risks that align with our values and aspirations. By embracing the finite nature of life, we shift from a mindset of hesitation to one of purposeful action. The fear of failure diminishes when juxtaposed with the greater fear of living a life unfulfilled. Life's impermanence becomes a catalyst, reminding us that every moment is an opportunity to create, connect, and contribute meaningfully. When fear of failure is outweighed by the realization of life's impermanence, we are free to pursue what truly matters without hesitation or regret. The practice of memento mori inspires a sense of urgency that propels us beyond our comfort zones, pushing us to engage fully with the opportunities at hand. It encourages us to ask profound questions. What would I attempt if I knew I couldn't fail? How would I live if today were my last day? These reflections transform procrastination into action and fear into determination. Memento mori empowers us to prioritize courage over complacency and intentional action over passive waiting. It provides a lens through which we can evaluate the choices we make daily, ensuring they align with our deepest values and long-term goals. It teaches us that the risks we take in pursuit of authenticity and meaning are worth far more than the fleeting security of playing it safe. This mindset not only liberates us from the fear of judgment or failure, but also strengthens our resolve to live a life filled with purpose, passion, and impact. Moreover, modern psychological research supports this Stoic practice. Studies show that contemplating mortality can increase gratitude, enhance well-being, and promote behaviors aligned with long-term goals. Known as mortality salience, this practice helps individuals clarify their priorities and focus on what brings genuine satisfaction and fulfillment. Far from inducing despair, these reflections inspire action and intentionality, encouraging us to make the most of every moment. For example, people who reflect on their mortality are more likely to mend relationships, pursue lifelong dreams, and engage in altruistic acts, underscoring the transformative potential of this Stoic principle. By reminding ourselves of life's fragility, we are motivated to live more fully, embracing both its beauty and impermanence. Daily reflection. Each morning, ask yourself, if today were my last day, how would I live it? Let this guide your decisions and actions. Write down one meaningful action you will take each day that aligns with this perspective. Prioritize meaningful activities. Use the lens of mortality to focus on relationships, personal growth, and work that aligns with your values. Eliminate distractions that don't contribute to your overall purpose. Make a habit of reviewing your goals and ensuring they align with what truly matters. Carry a memento mori reminder. Keep a physical object, such as a coin or bracelet, as a daily reminder of life's fragility. Let it inspire you to act with intention. The Stoics often used visual reminders, such as skulls or inscriptions, to reinforce this concept. Periodic life audits. Every few months, reflect deeply on how you are spending your time. Ask yourself whether your actions align with your highest priorities and values. Adjust your path as needed to ensure you are living with purpose and clarity. Expand gratitude through mortality. At the end of each day, list 3 moments you're grateful for, reflecting on how awareness of life's fleeting nature enriched those experiences. By combining these 3 Stoic perspectives, you create a powerful mindset that can overcome any challenge. Mastering your mindset ensures you control your inner world regardless of external circumstances. Viewing adversity as an opportunity empowers you to grow stronger through challenges. Embracing mortality inspires urgency and focus on what truly matters. Start your day by journaling about these 3 perspectives. Write down one way you will. 1. Master your mindset. 2. Reframe a potential challenge as an opportunity. 3. Prioritize an action that aligns with your purpose. End your day by reflecting on how you applied these principles. Note any improvements or lessons learned. Use this time to recalibrate and plan for the next day. Stoicism teaches us that true strength comes from within. By mastering your mindset, seeing challenges as opportunities, and living with the awareness of mortality, you cultivate resilience, clarity, and purpose. Remember the words of Marcus Aurelius: "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Adopt these Stoic perspectives, practice them daily, and watch as you transform into an unstoppable force, capable of conquering any challenge life presents. The journey is not about avoiding difficulty, but embracing it, growing from it, and emerging stronger than ever before.